On behalf of the City of Richland, welcome to our Candidates Forum for the Richland Police Chief, the 3 finalists who are with us today, and we'll introduce them momentarily. We're going to be here for an hour of introductions and questions and answers that many of them have been previously submitted by members of our community in various constituencies. And they will be rotating their answers through as we go through that. And then the second hour, roughly, of our evening, you're going to have an opportunity more of an informal basis where you can have a dialogue with each of them individually. So, and I guess I just, as a caveat, at that point of the evening, just know that there are a lot of you here that might want to bounce around and ask questions. Just be conscious if there's other people that do want to talk to them as well. But thank you for taking the time to join us on a beautiful Tri-Cities evening. My name is Jim Hall, and I am first and foremost a resident of the City of Richland. I have been for about 30 years. I work, soon to be retiring, from Cadlick Regional Medical Center, and a place that I've been for 30 years. And prior to that, I've been in the Tri-Cities actually for 42 years. Gosh, I'm aging myself. But prior to that, I spent 12 years working in sports and news at one of our TV stations here in town. So I've been a part of the city's, some of their communications events like this relative to budgeting and different important community city issues through the years, and Holly and John had asked me to help this dialogue today. So it's great to be with you. Thanks for taking the time. The format of how we're going to do this tonight, I'm going to go to page 2. Before I do, we do have some members of our city council with us tonight, and I believe I see Mayor Pro Tem Sandra Kent is here, Shane Van Dyke is here, Joanna Jones is here, and Ryan Witten, Ryan is not here. But if he comes in, somebody will tell me if he is. But anyway, thanks. We have 7 members of our Richland City Council who are, I'm sure, just as anxious as you to find out how this process goes forward. With that being said, the city engaged a company called Mosaic Public Partners, and they're an executive recruitment firm, to help in the nationwide recruitment and selection process. And I understand Brian Noblet, Brian is waving in the back, is a retired police chief and one of the principals of the firm. He's with us tonight, and he will continue to assist in this process as it goes forward. Mosaic has recently led recruitments of other police chiefs around the country in places like Chandler, Arizona, and Austin, Texas, among many others. Now, after narrowing the list of applicants, tonight's 3 individuals who are with us today are the finalists for the Richland Department Chief of Police. And before tonight's event, all of the candidates were given a tour of the City of Richland and spent time touring the Richland Police Department next door. The purpose of this forum and a meet and greet is to allow each candidate to briefly talk about their background and introduce themselves to the community and to all of you, and answer some questions of predetermined, as we touched on some various topics of interest. And we solicited questions not only from the public, as we talked about, some of which have been included in this program. Now, just to explain our rules on how this is going to work, and hopefully they've explained this to you before. Great. Each candidate will have the same amount of time to answer each question and then provide a 2-minute closing statement. And Claire, with the police department's community relations team, will be our timekeeper tonight. So if you happen to see Claire give you this, when 30 seconds remain, and then in your allotted time, and then also at the time when time has expired. So you won't be real hard on them, will you, Claire? Okay. But yeah, we just asked stay within that rough time frame. Now, after the Q&A, we'll close the formal question process and allow everyone in attendance, including all of you, to speak and to mingle with candidates on a little more informal basis. And please remember, many here, as we touched on, would like to talk to them. So, let's just maybe ask your question and then listen, like we all do. You may have one of the staff, again, kindly tap you on your shoulder and say, hey, somebody else's turn is next. So let's go ahead, get to know our candidates first of all, and we're going to have some opening statements from each of them. And I think you guys have been instructed to turn on your mic when it's your turn to speak, and you're going to have, I believe it's 5 minutes to answer this question. And just so you're aware, we're going to start with Chris and then go to Sean, and then Marty is the first order, and then every subsequent question will be rotated around. So we're going to begin with you, Chris, and the first question is, please tell us about your background and experience, especially as it relates to the position of Chief of Police, and what excites you about leading Richland's police department.
Is it working? Okay. Hey everybody, my name is Chris Mills. I graduated high school in Washington, and then I went straight into the military, where I had the pleasure of deploying sometimes as a sniper and then as a team leader. So I was in Mosul, Iraq in 2004 and 2005. If you ever Google the 124 Infantry Division, it was a big deal back then. When I got out, I worked for the federal government for a little bit as TSA, which was really exciting and eye-opening if you've never been to the airport. And then I got hired by Kent Police in 2008. So I've been in the Kent Police Department for almost 17 years now, and I've held a vast array of responsibilities there. I was a K-9 handler for a really long time. I was a K-9 sergeant. I was a K-9 commander. I was a SWAT commander. I've been the crisis intervention commander, and then I'm currently the investigations commander there. I've been in that role for about 2.5 years now, where I oversee our special investigations unit, which is, we've actually remodeled what that looks like for our department, where that unit assists all major crimes, homicides, robberies, and they track down the worst criminals that commit those worst offenses. And we're really tech-driven when we do that. So we use technology to our advantage, which is a big deal here. With all the tech here, I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like. And so we use tech to track down those people. I'm also the SAU commander, which is the Special Assault Unit, and they are basically responsible for investigating every crime that has a vulnerable adult, so sex crimes, children crimes, things like that. I am the K-9 commander. In that role, I sat on the state legislatively mandated model policy board. So I got to work with community members in developing a model policy for the state of Washington. And then I was a SWAT commander. I transitioned out of that role when I took on at my department, I'm the policy and use of force expert. So I go and I testify at inquests. So when an officer is involved in deadly force, I go there and I testify to our policies and whether the officer was within policy, and then I testify about their use of force within that process. So I had to shift my focus on that because that's a pretty big deal. You're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with people's careers, you're dealing with community trust, so they want to be able to focus on that. It's just a little snapshot of mine. I could talk about Richland all day. My family, or my friends who are like family, are here in Richland, and they have kids that are my kids' age. So when I look at where I would be a chief, I've applied to one place as a chief. I like where I work. I have a great life. I have a great job. But the draw here is too good to pass up. I've got 3 little kids. I want to come somewhere where I can grow with the department, grow with the community, to where my kids can really be here. I have no interest in being a chief anywhere else. I don't want to be here for 2 or 3 years and then leave. So it was really important for me to find a place that I can bring my kids and bring them in the community. And something that, as you all know because you live here, this area is just tremendous when it comes to family and community. And all my kids are into sports, and so sports is really big out here. My family all lives in between Spokane and Bonners Ferry in Idaho, so this puts us about 3 hours closer to them. And then when I really looked at this department, as this opportunity came up, I see a young department who really could use some stability within their leadership. I think they've had a slew of chiefs for various reasons, and they're clearly a department who is thriving. Their community loves them, and I'll tell you, I've been through all the legislative changes. I've gone through all those things, and I've seen what communities that actually support their police really will do for just a culture of a police department, what that means for them serving you. And this place, really the Tri-Cities in general, but especially Richland, the community impact is it's tremendous. So for me, that's a huge draw, going to a place where you engage with the law enforcement, you really enjoy being around each other, and the amount of social events you have in the city, it's just a place I can see me raising my kids for the next 15 years. And so for me, that's the why of Richland. It's really about the community and looking at the department and the things that the department could be.
Thank you. I think next up on our candidate list is Sean O'Laughlin. Sean?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sean O'Laughlin. I was born and raised in Federal Way. My parents actually met here in Tri-Cities. My mom is a graduate of Pasco High School. I have family that lives here in Richland and works in Richland, as well as the Tri-Cities. And it's just an honor to be here to interview for this position. And I'll talk a little bit about myself, then I'll talk about the city. Since the age of 6, I've been part of teams. I've played multiple sports. I've been anywhere from the bench player to a positional player to a team captain. Throughout my whole life, I've been part of teams. And what I've learned about teams is when I became a coach it was my junior year of high school, I was coaching a 5th grade basketball team, and we were terrible. And we were terrible because I was learning how to lead at a very young age. I've been blessed that my career in my athletics has given me the opportunity to start law enforcement. I got an athletic scholarship to the University of Washington in 1997. I played 2 years at the UW, go Huskies. And then I got hired at the police department there in 2001. I was a patrol officer. We wanted to get nationally accredited, so after about 5 years, nobody wanted to be the accreditation manager, and I know that's something big for the city of Richland, as Richland's looking to get state and nationally accredited. So I took on the CLIA, Commission of Law Enforcement Accreditation, and we worked diligently through policy and procedure. The greatest thing about being an accreditation manager, you really learn the stem to stern of your police department, from budget to hiring, training, to our community outreach, to our crime stats. And so I learned at a young age the importance of understanding how a police department operates with the community. From there, I was promoted to sergeant. I've been a teacher coach since my junior year, and so I've been an FTO sergeant. I've been an FTO officer. I've taught emergency vehicle operations instructor course. I've taught riot control, crowd control management. I've taught first aid CPR. Enlisted in the Coast Guard Reserve in 2008, got commissioned in 2009. So I've been a commissioned reserve officer for the Coast Guard for 14 years. Took a little bit of a hiatus from law enforcement. Wanted to really work on professional development and growth. I'm big on team. I'm big on positive culture. So I went to the Coast Guard Academy and I taught over 800 officer candidates to be commissioned officers in our military service. One of the most rewarding experiences I've had in my life. While I was there, I got my second master's degree. So I have a master's from the University of Washington in Executive Public Administration, a master's in National Security and Strategic Studies from the Naval War College. So I went to night classes. I'm very big on positive working hard, and so I'm always trying to find ways as a lifelong learner how I can get better, so that I can be a better leader for those that I'm fortunate to lead. Came back into law enforcement. Tim Walters, Chief, thank you for being here today. Hired me at Eastern Washington University in 2018. When I came off active duty, and I've been at Eastern now for 6 years. We just got nationally accredited as well, so I did the national accreditation for Eastern. And I look at it as I'm a facilitator of process improvement. I'm always looking at how we can get better as an organization and how I can get better as a leader as well. And so that's a little bit of that. Last summer, I went to the FBI National Academy, graduated in session 287. And I also worked on a graduate certificate, so essentially a half a master's degree in public safety from the University of Virginia. And so I'm currently assigned as the executive officer for Port Security Unit 313. I was asked 2 years ago, and I talked to my chief at the time because I knew it would be a little bit of a lift. But my chief, and I appreciate Chief Day, who's not here tonight, but I said, hey, I know I can balance both, and I have. It's been somewhat of a challenge, but I think it's what Chief Day said was, it's really developed me as a leader, being in a totally different military environment. I was asked to take that role on because of my service name and the positivity that I bring to work every day. And I hate to say that because I think actions speak more than words, but that's a little bit about me. What's most important to me, though, is I'm a man of faith, family, and service. I'm married. I've got 2 kids. And my daughter's 26 and my son's 13. We're at that transition age where we can move. Why Richland? I have done a large amount of research. I've talked to a lot of officers. I've talked to the 2 last interim chiefs, Chief Craig Meidel, David Nayer. I've talked to the union president. I've talked to the chief from Kennewick and Pasco. This is a phenomenal place. And you got a lot of great staff and great community. And I went to the National Night Out and I brought my wife and my son. We saw firsthand how wonderful the city is. And I'd love to be here for many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean. And our third candidate with us tonight is Marty Pilcher. Marty?
Good evening. My name is Marty Pilcher. I'm the Chief of Police in Woodburn, Oregon. Woodburn is a city of about 30,000 people. It's located in the Willamette Valley between Portland and Salem. I've been a police officer 35 years. I met my wife, who's sitting right there, making me more nervous, 34 years ago, and we've been married 33 years. As any couple that's been married that long, we've experienced all of the joys and sometimes the sadness of family. She has supported me and been by my side throughout my entire career, as you can see. She probably knows as much about police work as I do. We have two sons. One of them, Aiden, is sitting right there. He's a member of the Washington Air National Guard, and if this came to fruition, he would finish up his bachelor's degree at Washington State Tri-Cities. My other son, Colin, has a bachelor's degree in physics and a master's degree in chemistry. He's much smarter than I am. From U of O. Don't hold that against me. I didn't go to U of O. I just paid for somebody to go to U of O. We're a very close-knit family. Matter of fact, though my wife and I have traveled here a couple times to see the city. Just a week and a half ago, all four of us were here, crammed in a hotel over here, so they could see the city also. As I said, I've been a police officer for 35 years. Truthfully, it would be hard for me to articulate my resume here tonight. I can say I've held every rank between patrol officer and including chief of police. I've worked at cities that range from 30,000 to 170,000 people. I've been in just about every special assignment that you could imagine, except I never worked someplace where I could fly a helicopter, so I never got to do that. As a chief in Woodburn, however, I've had the opportunity to be the leader of an organization of 40 sworn and 12 non-sworn. I author and administer a budget of $11 million. I work closely with the city manager, and I also work very closely with other city staff, city attorney, human resources director, all of my peers within the city. Throughout my career, I have gained vast knowledge in use of force training, review of use of force, the use of force, and I've testified in state and federal court as a use of force expert. Throughout my career, I have handled every aspect of internal affairs investigations, all the way from deciding that an investigation needs to occur, to the investigations, to the determination of findings, and of course, as a chief, the final decision on what discipline may or may not occur. I also have vast experience in tactical operations. I formed and commanded a regional SWAT team. In Woodburn, I also am the accreditation manager. I started our wellness program that covers both mental health and physical health. Let's see. As I said, I work cooperatively with also a wide variety of other organizations that the police department interacts with, the county, the state, and federal government. I just have a wide variety of responsibilities that I really value and enjoy. As for the City of Richland, the thing that's coming to my mind this afternoon as I was visiting further was unicorn. And this is kind of a unicorn place, both in the way the city is operated and the police department. So my interest in it is both personal and professional. Personally, I first came to Richland as a child, I'll age myself, in the 1970s to enjoy the heat and recreate on the river. And then we've returned numerous times since we moved to the Pacific Northwest. And it's just a nice place. You have a very nice city here. It has a very much of a community feel, as many nice neighborhoods that my wife and I would enjoy residing in. And professionally, it's obviously an excellent police department. The staff is tremendous. I went on a ride along today with a young officer who is incredible, as well as the rest of the staff that I met later in the day. And it would be an honor and a privilege to be part of that organization, and certainly an honor and privilege to lead such an organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Now we're going to move to some questions that have been submitted to all of our candidates. And again, we were going to rotate the order so they're not all in the same order. And just so we could be aware, Sean, you'll lead off this question first, followed by Marty and then Chris. And the first question that we have, you have up to 3 minutes. If you don't have to use all three, but just know that you have up to 3 minutes, or what happens? Claire, we call Claire. So just know that you have a max of 3 minutes on each of these questions. Our first question we'd like to talk to is referencing community engagement, which is crucial to the success of the police chief in the city of Richland. How do you plan to build trust and maintain positive relationships with residents and local business owners in this community? And how have you achieved success in this area where you are currently working? And a reminder, you have 3 minutes. And so, Sean, it's all yours.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. I think Claire does a phenomenal job of the outreach. 64,000 people are following the Richland Police Department. Just this last month, I think there was 4 major events, including National Night Out that I went to. So at Eastern Washington University, 25% of our population changes every year because it's school. We are in a very politically dynamic environment with people from all over the world that come to our institution to learn. And they all have different values and different beliefs based on where they come from. And so we as a small agency, we push really hard on outreach. We have an officer assigned to the athletic department, our most diverse community on campus, who travels with football. I do new orientation, student orientation that I do. We also do a welcome aboard dorm move-in. We also do hot dogs. So in October, we're going to feed our students. And we also do a lot of safety assessments. We'll do defensive tactics training. I've been involved in all of that. I'm involved with our student conduct, so I'm constantly working with our critical stakeholders on the needs of our campus and the safety and concerns that we have. We have quarterly safety briefs that we bring in students, we bring in our staff, we look at our campus and areas of concern, crime trends that we've had, how do we mitigate, and a lot of times it's just open forums and communications where we really drive in to make sure that we are a fabric of our community. And I would bring a lot of those things to Richland. I think a big thing is Kiwanis, looking at the Boys and Girls Club, looking at any of the student groups that we have on campus. The Richland School District has 13,700 students and 1,700 staff. And so how we have I noticed that Richland has 2 resource officers assigned to the schools. So I'd look to see how if we can maybe try to grow that footprint. I know that the school district's looking to build a new high school and middle school. So that would be a goal for me. I think too is there's probably, I counted 14 different events that the city of Richland does. So I'd be totally engaged in how I can totally meet as many people as possible and start building those relationships, both internally and externally. My job would be, is honestly, the first 6 months is to listen and learn from the community, hear your needs, probably send out a survey on how we can get better and how the department is serving you and how we can get better. I also think too is the pride of the officers and the staff at the police department. 739 less arrests. Property crimes are down 23.8%, and violent crime is down, I think, 32%. So it just shows the great work that the department's doing. So, wrap up. Okay, thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Sean. Now, Marty.
I develop trust through 3 things: honesty, respect, and simply competence. Sometimes competence is underrated. But I use that method to develop trust with the individuals I lead, my peers, and then also the community. And my strength is not, honestly, this type of a meeting, and not my strength in meeting folks in this type of circumstance. However, I'm very good at developing trust in smaller groups. And one thing I have done at Woodburn was to create the Chiefs Advisory Board. And it's a total hack on my part, because what it does is allows me to meet with a group of people, the head of the Chamber of Commerce, folks from nonprofits, the superintendent of the school district, and some religious leaders. And through that, I meet with them every 4 to 6 weeks, and I act and am very transparent with them. And what that then allows me to do is when I go to all the different meetings that I attend, Chamber of Commerce meetings, Kiwanis meetings, Rotary, any of the other meetings I go to, I know these individuals, and through them, I'm able to connect with others. And so it really serves me well, even more so than I always thank them when they come to the meeting, because it helps me a lot to connect with them and know what's going on. And I use that to connect with those different groups. The other side of connection is not so importantly me, because I very rarely now, interact with people in an enforcement fashion. And so that changes the dynamic. But for the officers, increasing the opportunities for them to meet with the public in non-enforcement opportunities is very important. And we've been successful at doing that. I can remember working an event called Community Connection Day, where I stood out in a Safeway parking lot in the asphalt with Pastor Brown in Woodburn, and probably 200 people showed up. Just last month, the Community Connection Day occurred again, and we had 4,000 people show up to that. We had our officers present. It was in a beautiful park. It was no longer in the Safeway parking lot. And so those are the types of methods I use to develop that connection to the community. And it's apparent that that connection already exists here in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. It's all yours, Chris.
Thank you. So a couple things. One is I think initially I really would leverage the fact that you already have a lot of trust from our community and in the police department here, and leveraging that, right? It's a lot of maintenance work at that point, right? Because they've done the hard work, the culture of the police departments, and usually that is boots on the ground people doing that. They're the ones who are constantly being seen by the public, and they're the ones constantly reiterating that trust and always earning that. So for me, I would pay really close attention to what are you doing that's being done so well to where you've earned the respect and the trust of your community, and I try to not change those things that are already doing really well. Some of the things I do now is, I'm blessed to work for a large organization pretty close to Seattle, and so our relationships with our community is fought. It's well fought, good relationships. Kent has a very good relationship with the community, but we've really had to work at it. And so, a lot of education goes into building trust with the community. If they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, it tends to lend some benefit of the doubt when we do something that they automatically default that, hey, we need to hear the whole story and not jump to conclusions. And that is, again, based on educating them, talking to each other, finding out, how the public wants to be policed, because I believe that the community deserves a say in how they're policed, right? Because that's why we're here to serve you. And so having that understanding, the more engagements we have, the better that goes. And again, the department and the city do a really good job of outreach and being involved in the community and doing a really good job of, putting that on social media so that everybody sees that. I do think that where we will struggle to build trust is going to be in our younger generations, because reaching out to community leaders, reaching out to business leaders, reaching out to our religious leaders in the community, as I've been taught my entire career, goes a long ways. But when it comes to the younger crowd, you really have to leverage social media. You have to put the good feelings and good vibes out there and show people what we're doing, and being very intentional about broadcasting that we're consistently doing really good work, because that's what they care about. They want to see that we're consistently doing it, we're not stumbling, and when we do, we need to be transparent, right? We need to tell the public, hey, this is what we did, this is how we're improving it, and that's okay. We're all human. Law enforcement needs to be humanized more in general. So I believe that when you're transparent and you're able to bridge those gaps, I think that just leads to continued building trust. But again, I think this department's done a really good job building trust with the community. I'm really interested to see about continuing that trend. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Our next question, we're going to go Marty, Chris, and Sean in that particular order. And it reads, can you describe an experience where you successfully worked with community members to address a public safety issue? What was the outcome of that? And again, 3 minutes.
In 2021, the Woodburn School District decided to suspend our SRO program. In response to that, I communicated to them that we would like to continue that program. And they were a program that existed since the 1980s. And they were very good about listening to what I had to say and our interest to continue the program. I spoke to members of the school board and asked if there could be surveys done and if we could, for lack of a better term, present our position. Not trying to convince anybody of anything, but just say these are the facts. Because indeed, there had been a push to paint our SROs as, and you may have heard this term, the school to prison pipeline. And that was as far from the truth of our school resource officers as you could be. And they agreed to that. And part of that was because of the positive relationship we have with the school district. This had been a decision done by the school board. And so we gathered the information and also conducted the survey. And the survey showed between staff, students, parents, and the neighborhood that in each case, the positive opinion of our SRO program was 2/3 to 3/4. A positive response to those questions about the program. We also made presentations to the board and others, and in those presentations there were individuals who were present who felt very differently from us, and that the program should continue. And again, we just focused on the facts. I didn't want to argue with anybody. I wasn't trying to convince them otherwise. I just wanted to lay the facts out there. And it turns out the district decided to continue the SRO program, and it continues to this day. And it is a shining example of community policing, if ever there is one, and that goes for SRO programs everywhere. A school definitely is a neighborhood and is a community, and what happens in the school affects the city as a whole, and what happens in the city affects the schools as a whole. So that was an opportunity to address a public safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Chris?
So when COVID happened, in my area, that was a little more of a dramatic alteration to our lifestyles. What we found is that I was in charge of a unit that dealt a lot with mental health and the homelessness or unhoused population. And so at the time, when all the people couldn't come outside, our downtown business area in our city is really condensed. It's all right there in the downtown area. And what we had is we had homeless popping up everywhere, and where they were taking over sidewalks in front of businesses, causing damage. And it was really causing a public crisis where business owners couldn't open their doors even when they wanted to. And so my unit, and I'm a firm believer in being proactive within the laws and, humanizing things. So operating within those. So what I did is I actually went outside, me and my unit, and just to be clear here, nothing any of us have done isn't with the help of being surrounded by really high-level people working for us. So I was lucky to have a very proactive team working for me at the time. And so what we did is we actually went out, brought in a bunch of resources. We gave everyone on the streets ample opportunities to connect with those resources, to get housing, to get help. But we were also very intentional about, if you don't take the help that we're trying to provide you, that you're legally allowed to have, then we're going to follow the legal processes we have in place, and we're going to move you along. And so that approach cleared up our downtown area. It also led to our city, and good on them, they were able to secure funds to clear out our parks, and we have a lot of wooded areas in our parks. We're able to clear them all out of there. So in the end, my unit ended up connecting dozens of people with services, finding permanent homes for people that are still housed today. And we really eliminated that downtown core problem, which was causing our business owners and our public so much of a hassle, and just really cleaning up the eyesore that was. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Sean?
So working at a institution of higher learning, we have a lot of civil unrest. We had an outside agitation group that came in 2018, which was the first year that I was hired at the department. And we had where our students became very upset. And they didn't understand First Amendment rights and what we were allowed, required by law to do, and what we couldn't do. There was a lot of derogatory things that were said towards our students from this outside group, but it wasn't to the point it was criminal. And so we had ended up having about 300 or 400 students gathering around about 2 or 3 gentlemen that were, I call outside agitators. And it was getting very heated very quickly. Based on experience of dealing with civil unrest from my prior agency, I immediately went and found the student president, who was part of the group that was really upset, started to engage with her. And honestly, I didn't have a relationship with her prior to that event of that day. And so she didn't have any trust for me, but I had to really try to gain trust quickly by hearing her out, one, two, giving her some options. And also, I think the big thing was I was able to build a relationship with her, not just at the event, but after the fact. That as a student engagement with our president, our student body president, is we have yearly meetings with our president just to give them updates on the challenges that might occur on campus. Anyways, in that incident, we were able to defuse the situation because she turned and told the students, don't give them the time of day. Because she did that, the students walked away, and we mitigated a evolving situation that could have gone very badly very quickly for many people in our community. And so fortunately it worked out. What we learned from that is, it's about relationships, and I'm huge on relationships. And the more that we can engage with our community, and the more I can engage with you, if I'm blessed with this opportunity, that's my goal, is to listen and learn, and just to hear you and how we can get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Our next question, the order will be Chris, Sean, and Marty. And the question reads, what do you perceive as the biggest challenges facing Richland in terms of public safety? And how would you address these challenges as the police chief?
Yeah, so when I look at the challenges this city is going through, and which will lead to challenges that the agency is going through, I really look at, while this is also a good thing, there's an inherent cost to it, right? The expansion of the city of Richland is predictable. It's happening right now. You're seeing it expand at an accelerated rate. And problem we're going to run into is you're going to run into having the staffing to deal with that amount of people that we're now serving. So thankfully, and again, this is through the research, and I think we've all touched on this, like the support here is amazing. The city council, the mayor, the city manager, the officers, the public. It's really led to the ability to expand resources. The fire department just went under this, as we learned today during our tour, that they were able to hire a bunch of personnel, and the city leadership has the foresight to predict those things and to start addressing them early, which is incredible. That is not normal. If you didn't know that, that's not normal in law enforcement. So being intentional about having those conversations and really having a strategic plan in place to accommodate for that eventuality is going to be critical to being able to combat that when it happens, because your population will increase, businesses will increase, money will increase, resources will increase, but so will crime, and so will people's needs, because that's typical. That's what comes with it. It's hand in hand. But again, if you're strategic and intentional about addressing those early, I think that's all predictable and preventable. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sean?
So I'd go back to, the city is, like Chris said, the city is going to grow, and it's growing immensely. I know there's 5,000 houses that are going to be developed in the next couple of years, as we were driving through the city today. I think it comes down to, I counted 1,800 hours of volunteer hours at the police department from the volunteers at Richland Police Department. And I also would say it's in community engagement. It's literally supporting the department and how we can serve you. There's technology out there. There's a lot of great technology. I know, for example, the city of Richland uses flock cameras. There's the ability where you can share, if you're up to it and you want to, you can share your cameras with city police departments. That technology is out there through Fusus. And so I looked at where we could leverage our technology, where we can leverage our resources, where we can do a lot of more of that engagement that we've had here at the department. We are looking to overhaul our complete camera system on our campus because we're growing, we've outdated it. And so I think technology will be critical. I think being strategic, as we talked a little bit about the school district looking to build a new high school and middle school and developing that, is let's get all on the same camera system and access control. And I don't think it's just within Richland, but I think it's within the whole Tri-Cities, Franklin and Benton County. I have an extensive background in emergency management, about 95% done to be nationally credentialed as an emergency manager. And I think, so I always look at things holistically. Richland, Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Pasco, West Richland are all growing, Benton City. And so how can we leverage our resources together to keep our entire community safe? Because crime just doesn't stay within one boundary, it jumps. And so the more that we can strategically work together and how we have the same systems, same radio system. I know that the communication center does service that, but how we can improve that technology, I think, will be critical in how our city grows, but also how our region grows. I think also, too, emergency management as having regional exercises, working with our key stakeholders across and all of the folks in here that want to be a part of that. And we exercise what we're deficient. How do we grow from that? How do we learn from that? And how do we get better? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Marty?
As the others said, it's obviously growth. The city appears to be well positioned to grow and then to manage that growth. From a police department standpoint is the ability to respond to that growth. That comes through staffing and also succession planning. Talking to individuals at the police department now, of course, there are staffing issues like there are in many organizations. I think with the communication you see from the department, though, this is a very attractive place to work and would draw people to it. However, as an organization grows, it's important to maintain the culture. And from everything I can see, the Richmond Police Department has an exceedingly positive culture. And sometimes agencies are eager to hire lateral officers from other locations, and that has a positive aspect, but it can also have a negative aspect if they bring with them a negative culture. But managing that growth and then creating a succession plan. So truthfully, and developing your staff. So truthfully, in 5 years from now, if you're looking for another chief, it's probably not 3 people from outside of the area. It might be 1 or 2 or 1, but there are people within the organization who have been developed and grown through that organization who are actually the ones sitting up here on an evening like this.
Thank you, Marty. On to question number 4. This time the order goes Sean, Marty, and Chris. And the question is, how do you plan to handle and resolve community complaints or conflicts with the police department effectively and transparently? Sean?
The City of Richland just put out its 2023 report on use of force complaints. The biggest thing is people want to be heard. And as if I'm selected as chief, I will sit down and hear you out and articulate. What I've learned in complaints, and because I oversee all of our internal affairs of my agency, is a lot of times it's just misinformation or not knowledge, or the officer didn't take enough time to articulate the why. People want to know why. So the biggest thing is be timely. Hear them out. I think a lot of times we've mitigated our complaints because I think it was just a misunderstanding. And if an officer is out of line or is inappropriate, then we address it and we move forward. We address it through accountability. We have to be accountable to the oath of office. I'm big on the oath of office. It is an honor and a privilege to serve in law enforcement, and for me to serve in the military. I'm a servant at heart. And so I take any complaints or any areas that we're deficient big time, and I always try to figure out to the why. If it's a performance issue, a willingness, or a role clarity, and then we continue to look to develop. And I think the biggest thing is that you have a lot of great officers at this department, and it's just let's get strategically pushing forward and where we continue to grow and that we can support the community. And this community knows that we are being transparent and fair. And if we make a mistake, own it. If I make a mistake, I'll be the first to tell you I made the mistake, and this is how I'm going to fix it. And I would expect that from any officer that worked for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Marty?
As I said earlier, I have addressed every aspect of the complaint process, from intake to the determination of final discipline if that is necessary. In my experience, many of the internal affairs investigations that I've addressed are actually internally generated. But those that come from the population must be addressed in a timely fashion, must be addressed thoroughly and professionally, and the individual needs to be communicated with in a timely fashion. Also, in examining a complaint or even an internally generated complaint, a question needs to be asked is why? Why did this happen? I'm addressing one now in Woodburn, and through that process, it's clear that there are some procedures within our organization that led to the problem that the officer's having. And while that won't absolve them of an issue, if that's found to be the case, it's certainly something that we need to take into account so it doesn't continue to happen. Just pinpointing what happened and then addressing that does not mitigate the issue or address the issue long term, and that's something that needs to occur. And then finally, it's how a leader responds to those complaints, and how a leader responds to the citizens. A leader of an agency is examined constantly from the time you walk in the door every day, how you interact with the public. If an officer overhears you on the phone with a member of the public, you set the example for how you expect those you lead to act. And it just starts from the top. And as I said, all investigations need to be handled in a very professional manner. Both the citizen and the officers involved deserve that, because if they don't feel they've been treated fairly, that's communicated throughout the organization and causes those who serve the public to lose trust in that organization.
Thank you, Marty. Chris?
So clearly in a large organization, I deal with complaints quite frequently, to the point where I think what our agency has currently done is they've actually funneled all complaints to one, essentially a standards office. And one of the smartest thing I think they ever did, and I got to give credit to these people that did this, it wasn't me, is they distinguished the difference between a service complaint and a complaint of, there's an ethics thing or something like that involved. Okay, by bifurcating those two things, it really cleans up the fact that, one, I think we empower our current leaders to deal with complaints at a bottom level, right? If sergeants on the street can handle complaints, timeliness matters in law enforcement, dealing with the community, where complaints come to mind. So the quicker you can get them a response, the quicker they're appeased or they understand, or you educate them on what happened. Or if we find that there's issues within our staff, then that's, as Marty said, that is a leadership issue, right? Do we understand our policies? Do we understand our CBA? Do we understand what is expected of us as a community? And sometimes that means holding people accountable. And by being fair and consistent internally, I think it really sets up a culture of, hey, when we make a mistake, we own that, and we do that without any prompting from anywhere else. I would love to be part of a department where when I mess up, I'm the first person that tells me about it, right? I'm the first person that tells my boss about it. And that's kind of how I would approach complaints, is establishing a culture where it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to come forward with those mistakes. And by doing that and being very proactive in doing that, the public will see that we do that. And so when they do come to us with a complaint, we usually have our ducks in a row as far as dealing with that. And so we can deal with it at the appropriate level that it needs to be dealt with. That comes with transparency and not being afraid to tell people, hey, this is on us. We made a mistake. We'll get better. We'll learn and we'll grow from this. And that's normal. We're all human beings. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to grow from them, right? They say the lessons best learned are the ones made from bad decision making, right? Great decision making comes from making multiple bad decisions. And we all get there eventually. So having clear established policies and procedures for dealing with complaints is going to be critical. And then being transparent with the findings of those with our public so that they are assured that we're not doing these things again and again. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final question during this period of time relates to the character of your current community, and what types of policing challenges does it present, and what challenges does the police department face in meeting those challenges? How will your experience dealing with those challenges in your communities contribute to your success here in Richland? And we go Marty, Chris, and then Sean.
As I said, I'm the chief in a city of approximately 30,000 people. Like I said, I have worked at other agencies, but I'll focus on where I'm at right now. Woodburn is a city that is approximately 60% Latino. That is not a monolithic group, however. There are individuals that have lived in Woodburn for multiple generations. On the other hand, we interact with residents who've been there 1 month. As taking that into account, it's very important to understand that we are interacting with people who view us differently. We can't assume they view us one way because, as I said, someone who's come to the country a month ago may be very fearful to interact with us. I'll give an example of how we have created good relationships with the Latino community. A couple years ago, ICE came to town, and they wanted to go into a home to look for an individual who had a warrant, a federal warrant. The residents in that home didn't want to let ICE in. They were fearful that it would then encumber them with residency issues. They actually called the Woodburn Police Department and asked our officers to come by because they trusted us. And we communicated with ICE and we said, look, we'll go in the house because they would let us in and we will look for the individual you're looking for. And we went in, checked the house, that individual wasn't there, we went back out, and ICE headed on their way to conduct their other responsibilities. And in actuality, we'd made the family's kids late for school, so one of the officers drove their kids to school. So developing those relationships with who you serve, not who you want to serve, not who you think you should serve, but who you serve is very important. And while the demographics of this city may be different than the demographics of the city I work now, everybody here is a resident. Everybody here deserves our best effort, an honest, ethical, empathetic, and respectful effort. And so that is what I've done throughout my career at the different places I've worked. And that is what I would bring to this community.
Thank you, Marty. Chris?
And so character is really defined by what people externally think about you as a police department when we're talking about character of a department, character of a community. So when I look at that dynamic, right, again, that starts with trust and that starts with those critical conversations and that starts with the outreach within the community. I've been blessed to have some really great chiefs in my pipeline in my career to really look at and learn from some of the things that they've done well, some of the things that they could have improved upon, and something that various chiefs that I've served under have done really well is establishing those relationships with the community, and so that when they look at law enforcement, they really do give us the benefit of the doubt most of the time. They want to believe in us. We're here to serve them, and understanding that dynamic, especially internally, understanding that the people you serve, what they think about you does matter, really gives credence to your character as an organization. And so when I look at that dynamic, I really want the police department to embody those things that the public expects of them, right? So I want the public to look at us and just give us always assume we're doing the right things, always assume we're of the highest characters, and we make a mistake, it's a mistake of, it's the difference between a mistake of the heart and a mistake of the mind, right? I want them to think that, they're allowed to make mistakes, and that really speaks to what they believe our character is. And from everything I've seen, the character of the police department and the city in general is very, very high. I think the public sees that, they recognize that, and we just need to continue building that forward. So when I look at character and how I would really focus on that, I would just focus on doing the things that they're doing, but with a little bit more feedback from the community and greater influence from the leadership, right? Establishing a leadership within the department to really set the tone for what that department should be doing outwardly looking. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Sean?
Please tell us about the character of your current community and what types of policing
Challenges it presents, and what challenges does the police department face in meeting them, and how will your experience dealing with those challenges contribute to your success in Richland?
Half of our department are actually Eastern grads. So we try to develop, we have a cadet program where we train them, and a lot of them that we send out to other agencies. But we do it internally by finding students on campus that are interested in law enforcement and how we can help grow and develop them. And that's why we have half of our staff are graduates of our institution. I think the biggest thing, and I talked a little about this earlier, is that 25% of our population transitions every year. And we have folks from all over the world. And so how we meet them is through orientations, and we get in front of them. We have what's called the RAVE app. I think it's a great tool that could be beneficial here. Essentially, under a Title IX institution, you have to do timely emergency notifications. And so that app has given us 30,000 members of our community are attached to that app. Our old system had 7, and we did this in the last year and a half. So we're able to message emergencies out to our community, and also our engagement. We just created on the app football games, and so everything that's our students need to know about, and our staff and faculty and visitors for home football games, we use that technology. And so we do it not just face-to-face, but we do it through technology. That's why I was so impressed with Claire and the work that she's done for the Richland Police Department. I think the way that we can continue to do that and grow that. I think, too, for the City of Richland, recruiting. There's been a huge recruiting process and retention for the department. It was in the 2013 goals. And so I look more strategic and long term. How do we get in the school district? Because if you get in the school district and you start building it through our resource officers, and we grow that, and that's why I'm so big on that, you're going to develop where I hope that half the staff for the City of Richland came from Richland School District and grew up in this community and understand the fabric of this community. And so as somebody who looks very strategically how we can do that, I would look to leverage that through long-term engagement and relationships. Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we move on to our final, I just have to say, I'm sure this isn't easy for any of you, and you're just all doing extremely well, so well done. Now we're moving to the closing statements portion of our program, and we're going to go again in this order: Chris, Sean, and Marty. And each of you will have 2 minutes to provide a closing statement and utilize it however you'd like, but try and summarize your vision and address any final points that you'd like to make. Chris?
Thank you. One, I want to thank everybody for being here, city council members, members of the public, city manager, Mosaic for running this. You, sir, thank you. It's a great privilege and an honor to be in a position where we can sit in front of you, answer your questions that I really like the city's approach to reaching out to you for questions. It's a little intimidating, right? Because we're all nervous up here. This is not easy. So we really appreciate your investment in the department and the chief selection. Regardless of who gets selected, your department is a really great department. I would be privileged to be able to lead that department. They're doing a lot of really great things, and they could really do with some stable leadership in the chief position. I think they're in a great position right now, but they could really benefit from that, and you will get that, right? Your department needs to be able to serve you the best they can, and you can't do that without leadership in place. So I think it's very important that you select a good chief and that they're there for a long time. So thank you for having us here, and thank you for investing in your police department and for being here tonight, because it's a big deal to take time out of your lives to come here and show that you're invested in this process. Thank you very much.
Yes, Sean?
To reiterate what Chris said, it's an honor and privilege to be here. I applied for Richland 4 months ago. I've done extensive research and trying to talk to a lot of people and really understand this city, the community, and the department. And it's an exceptional place. I'm going to leave with 3 simple things. I'm a positive. I try to create positive climate. I live on that value of constantly being positive and how we solve problems working together. Hard work. I will give you my word that if I'm blessed with this opportunity, I will work to help better myself, better the staff, and how we better work with you and deliver the services, public safety services to the City of Richland and the surrounding communities, working collaboratively with the other agencies here. And then finally, last thing, I really look at opportunity to have impact. I look at my life and the blessings that I've had, and I believe that I truly have had impact everywhere I've been because I have a servant heart. and I'm loyal, and I want to make a difference. And my commitment, if I'm given the opportunity to be here at Richland, is 100% Richland. I have some military opportunities I still have to finish up, but my priority is here and not my military career, and I want to make that very apparent. I am 100% in for Richland. It is a great place. I have family here. I have family that lives in this city, and I want to make sure that we have the best police department possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Finally, Marty.
I thank each of you for being here this evening. Law enforcement matters. It matters to the individuals each of us interact with. It matters to our community, and it matters to our society as a whole. Something could be happening in Woodburn right now that not only affects it, but could affect our nation as a whole and even the way our nation is viewed. And with that responsibility comes understandable scrutiny and accountability. But accepting that makes this profession what it is. And again, I say, being a police officer matters. And it's a privilege having to do something that matters beyond just ourselves, but to be part of something greater than ourselves. And that's what can keep people moving when they've worked a 12-hour shift and they got to work another 3 hours because of a call they got. What you do matters, and it matters to all the citizens who've come here this evening. And that's why I value what I do so much. That's why I value it probably more now than when I started, because I understand it so well, and I've seen the sacrifices people have made, and I would very much welcome the opportunity to continue my career, and this would truly be an honor to be part of this organization. Thank you.
Marty Pilcher, Chris Mills, and Sean O'Laughlin, thank you. And thank you again for being here. We're not done. We have about another hour, and this is going to be a lot less formal. You may even undo your tie if you feel like it. But I'm not sure how we're going to do this, Claire, as far as gathering, but our candidates are going to be available for the next hour or so for you to introduce yourselves and have a visit with and ask questions with. And we have refreshments. We have some cookies and some water over there if you'd like to as well. So, and then we'll come back at the end and wrap this all up and explain the next steps in this process. So thanks for being with us, and let's adjourn to our networking session. Thank you.